In what is now becoming, in my opinion, an extremely strong era of Final Fantasy games. Rebirth is the latest entry in one of the most storied franchises ever, but also one of the most polarizing. The original Final Fantasy VII that came out in 1997 is one of the most cherished pieces of media of all time, and Remake's decision way back when in 2020 would divide the player base in its decision to stray from the original narrative. So Square Enix had a plan: split the game into 3 new parts, expand on them, flesh them out, and tell a new story all the while. To capture the true heart and soul of Final Fantasy VII, this would be a tremendous undertaking. Remake took the Midgar part, the early 5 hours, and expanded on it, fleshed out its cast of characters, and even the setting and location, and injected so much personality and just spirit into it that it blew me away back in the day, and I was hook, line, and sinker. I was completely on board with whatever wacky shenanigans they had cooking up for Rebirth, the second game in the franchise, or in this new little remake series, that would follow the events after Remake all the way leading to the single greatest spoiler moment in all of gaming history, where Aerith dies in the original. That is a segment of FF7 that Rebirth would tackle, expand on, and also tell a new story. But today, I'm not gonna go into spoilers, because there's so many thoughts that I have about this game just in terms of the actual spoilers that it's going to require a whole separate video. We're gonna give my full, non-spoiler review right now. How did Rebirth pan out? What did it learn from Remake? What did it get wrong? And what can it do even better? Now, I led off this video with a bold declaration that Rebirth is one of my favorite Final Fantasy games I've ever played. However, if you could gather from the title, it's also one of the most frustrating games of all time, in my opinion. But despite those moments, where I was cursing out on stream and all that, I stuck with the game, and even despite beating it, found myself, while I'm still sick, going back to the game and doing what I had not done before beating the main story, and almost going for 100%, not a platinum. Doing all the side quests, collecting all the things in the world. There was something about the world of Rebirth that was so captivating to me. Let's begin with an overall assessment on the story going on. Not specifics, but in my opinion, it's amazing. And the characters and the pacing are what set Remake and Rebirth apart. They are so good because they understand FF7 in my opinion. The characters were always one of the strongest elements of FF7, and Rebirth builds off the amazing work that Remake did. Makes all these characters lovable, have great chemistry with one another, and expanding the cast of characters and the side characters in Rebirth to an amazing degree, giving life and personality and character and uniqueness to each location you end up going to. And I love the narrative from start to finish. But I can't really talk about anything else without going into spoilers, so let's move on to the meat and potatoes of this video, the gameplay. And let's just kick off with the combat, because oh my god, the combat is pretty good, isn't it? It's extremely similar to Remake, however with a few additions here and there to really smooth the process over and make it far more fun and interesting in my opinion, and one of the biggest additions to this is the idea of synergy skills and abilities. Whereas in Remake, your party composition was largely constricted to whoever was available to you in the story, you have pretty much everyone for most of the game in Rebirth. And depending upon who you pair in your main party, they get abilities and skills that they can utilize, abilities that you work towards, and skills that you can spam if you want. And they aren't all offensive in nature. Some of them are, but some are defensive in nature. Some may get Tifa in the air, where she may not have had aerial or ways to get into the air before. With its synergy skills, she can. So all of a sudden, you got Tifa aerial combos. Cool line AoEs or just giant overhead slams with Cloud's Buster Sword, counterattacks, and the whole, it's so good. And when you bake parry into that baseline, it adds a sense of depth and engagement to the combat in my opinion that I found wholly satisfying. I found a desire, and I did, get better at parrying as I played more and more of the game. At first I felt it was clunky, attaching it to the button you had to hold down in order to use synergy skills. But eventually I just got over it and it started to click. And once you start getting these down pat and you start doing them really well, it feels super satisfying. And when you pair that with effective dodging, it makes the combat flow so seamlessly together. And funnily enough, it also makes you feel kind of rewarded for experimenting with your party composition, because pretty much everyone is viable here. I don't like Cait Sith. I personally dislike playing as him. But what I'm not saying is that he's a bad character balance-wise. It's just I don't like his playstyle. However, he is also really good, and he has synergy skills and abilities with everyone else. I think he has by far the worst dungeon in the freaking game, bar none, but everyone else, Red 13 is a menace in this game. Oh my god. It's like playing a failed druid in World of Warcraft on steroids or something. Jesus Christ, he rips and tears, he summons giant star beams down from the freaking sky. For a character that's supposed to feel like a tank designed on dodging things, dude rips and shreds like he's Doom Guy or something. Yuffie's incredible. If you remember her from Integrate, or from a DLC story in Remake, remember how fun she was there? Yeah, she's even more fun here, if you can believe that. Cloud is so easy to get into the air as well. You pretty much just dodge and then just hold down the attack button and he'll just go in the air against any aerial mob if you need him to. It's so good. Aerith is not a playstyle that I personally prefer or enjoy all that much, but I like having her in the party because she makes everyone else way better because her skills are also extremely freaking busted. Like being able to spawn a shield that blocks enemy projectiles, or even enemies to begin with. Increasing ally ATB. Remember that one spell that makes him cast twice? Yeah, she still has that. Tifa's like playing as Goku or somebody. It's hilarious. And you get all these synergy abilities that you work towards. They can give you extremely powerful effects like unlocking higher limit breaks, or doing way more stagger, or extending stagger windows on enemies if they're already staggered. There's one that Cloud and Tifa has to unlock unlimited MP for a short amount of time. That's amazing. There is so much to this combat system that I barely scratched the surface throughout my entire playthrough, and I still really enjoyed it. And then it really started to click for me as I was doing a lot of the post-game stuff. And I'm like, oh, this is so much fun, I kind of want to dive into hard mode. Because I hear the boss design is way more fun there as well. I think customization in terms of the skill trees is a bit of a letdown for me. It won't be for everybody, and it is kind of cool that the characters have skill trees, and I like the fact that they are there. Don't get me wrong. It's just that some of these nodes are like, bleh. Like hyper-specific and really low percent increases. I'm just going to give you an example. This isn't like from the game or anything, just like this is the type of buff you would get from one of these nodes. Like 3% more punished mode damage for Cloud. Just like a bunch of stuff like that where it's like weirdly specific at times and doesn't seem all that rewarding. Like to me, it's not a matter of if it's necessarily good or not numbers wise, it's does it make my buttons feel better to press. There's some in there that do, don't get me wrong, because you can unlock synergy abilities in that talent tree, and those are the cool things to get. Or even at the end, like new limit breaks and attacks. And you can also learn like these weak magic spells that act as abilities, but they give you like the elements so you don't need to worry about, oh, I need to make sure every character has all the different elements of magic just in case the enemy's weak to something. No, if you spec into it, every character can just have every element, just a weak version of it, and then you can go from there. It's really great as a buffer, and apparently it's clutch in hard mode, where MP is extremely strict and you don't get items. So I think the whole like customization for the characters is a bit hit or miss, but I love the idea of being able to swap to different party compositions and all that. The team I rocked with the most was Cloud, Tifa, and Yuffie, and I had a blast with those three characters. But every time the game had me play as Barret or Red 13, I had so much fun with them, and I love having Aerith in the party. I just don't like playing as Aerith by herself, really. And honestly, Cait Sith is fine when he's a party member, and I don't have to like control him all the freaking time. He has some cool stuff to him as well, though. I will say that he's extremely unique, and there's gonna be a lot of people out there that really like him. It's just not for me. He attacks with like music notes, and he has this mechanic where he can either be on the Moogle or not on the Moogle. It's like a balancing act trying to make sure the Moogle doesn't lose out on its health because it like regens or something if you get off of it and then get back on it. Like I said, I didn't play him too much because I didn't enjoy him, but oh my god, the characters overall in this game, the gameplay is so fun. It's a step up from Remake. It's a step up from Remake, in my opinion. And one of the biggest complaints with Remake overall was enemy design in the late game feeling way too bullet spongy, or just as if the enemies weren't that interesting to fight. They were just a giant sack of health that you had to like tear through. That's the case for a few enemies in this game, but overall, I think enemy variety and design-wise is so much better here. Oh my god. Even like basic enemies have strategies you can invoke to overcome them. It's great, and I found myself wanting to assess every mob just to figure out, oh, what's the optimal way to overcome this boss or this enemy, etc., etc. Learning this combat and getting better at it is super fun and rewarding. I think the open world, though, is a bit hit or miss. I think it's beautiful, absolutely stunning, and it's an amazing soundtrack. With the songs everywhere in this game are amazing. The music overall is a 10 out of 10. From beginning to end, it's so good. Gaga's music, oh my god. The Earth song from the trailers, oh my god. And funnily enough, despite the misgivings that I have with a bit of the open world design that I'm going to get into in a minute, despite those criticisms that I'm going to get into, I found myself 100%ing the world and going to get all the extra little collectibles and kind of stuff. Not everything, right? Because some of it requires you to do like hard mode minigames, and screw that noise, I'll get into that in a minute. But like all the enemy fights, all the proto relics, getting A ranks and all the music sheets that I found, getting all the summons, like all the summon materia, and upgrading them by their shrines in each zone. That was cool. I found myself going back just doing all of that, which is weird, because when I look at it objectively, it's basically just a to-do list Ubisoft-esque world, filled with towers that you have to go climb up, that some people call Breath of the Wild-esque, though when I see towers, I always think of Ubisoft. And there's a bunch of time-wasty animations and mechanics, like climbing these arbitrary towers where the button you have to press is like halfway up it, and you have to like climb up this weirdly constructed tower that's gonna take you like 30 seconds for no reason. And then after every node or objective you do in the open world, you're gonna have to see a point be tallied up, and then Charlie has to do a yap session and yet on like FaceTime for some reason, or you find a new chocobo rest point, so the little baby chocobo has to like do a dance for like 20 seconds. More like 7 seconds. It's more like 5 seconds. After you have to do the one animation the game has of you lifting the stop sign off the floor into position again, which is another like 10 seconds. Kind of exaggerating there, but it's like all these little seconds and these like repetitive animations add up over time to be a little bit annoying. Yeah, they're optional, but still, like, right? Can you just like skip by this? It'd be kind of funny if there was a skip button. I just didn't find it the entire time. I don't think there is, though. I think the proto relics were cool. Some were annoying, and I still have to do the final fight. The final fight that all culminates to, which I can't wait to do. But they have really cool stories, or even great ones associated with them as well. Like that are shockingly lore important at times, or just important to the development of the characters and the backstory, and have great payoff to events from Remake. Yeah, remember Chadley, by the way? I talked about him having his yap sessions. Dude talks way too much in this game. I liked Chadley in base Remake. I ended up not liking Chadley here, because they have him talk far too much, and they give him like a sister or something with Mai, who I'm fairly certain was designed simply because they realized they can't have Chadley talk to you that much, but it still feels as if Chadley's talking to you 24/7. It wouldn't be a problem if they didn't force you to watch him FaceTime you. Like, put him off into a little corner of the screen as I can go around do my objectives. They do that with Mai for the actual fights in the overworld, when you have to perform 3 objectives against a group of enemies or whatever, where you can do the fight and then Mai just yaps in your ear, which is still annoying. Let me turn that off, please. Or at least mute it. But like, all these animations and stuff wouldn't be an issue if they would just let me move during them. They like lock you in place. It gets really annoying for me, at least. It won't be the case for a lot of people out there, but for me especially, it got really annoying. Luckily, all this stuff is like side content you don't really have to do. And funnily enough, that's why I find most of Rebirth's issues. Not in the mandatory stuff. The mandatory stuff you gotta do throughout the game is really good. I haven't even talked about the card game. Queen's Blood is awesome. It gets frustrating and it can be hard, but it's a really good card game that should totally get brought into Final Fantasy XIV. Just saying. Speaking of, let's talk about the minigames. Some are amazing and fun, like really cool. Most of the ones in the Gold Saucer, not you 3D Brawler, are amazing and I love them. Some are just annoying and boring, 3D Brawler. Also, there's like one in Cosmo Canyon where you have to glide your Chocobo through a bunch of like point hoops in the sky and maintain aerial altitude. Like, I'd rather drag my balls across a field of broken glass that spans the entire Sahara than ever touch that one or Golden Gears ever again. Maybe I'll go back to try these hard mode minigames just for the hell of it, but like, some of them are off-putting and are just frustrating to where it feels like they're frustrating just for the sake of being frustrating. But like, outside of them, most of the minigames are really fun, creative, and just interesting in my opinion. Some control like ass, don't get me wrong. I'm thinking of you, pirate shooter in Costa del Sol. I'm thinking of you, but still cool. But I look at it all, and despite all those moments of frustration that I've had throughout Final Fantasy VII Rebirth and throughout my playthrough of Rebirth, it was a game of peaks and valleys, of really high highs, like really, really high highs, and some really low lows. Like the Kate Sith dungeon, that thing was terrible. But I think the game is largely just fun, and it oozes the feeling of Final Fantasy VII. And it nails both the upbeat whimsy that FF7 has, and the psychological, depressing themes that it also has, and it weaves between these two extremely well. And I'm more excited than ever for Part 3, just to see how the story ends, and how they can try and go from here. Because like, legit, you fixed most of my open world issues just by having Chadley shut up and letting me move during all those like animations where it's like saying, hey yo, you did the objective, congratulations. And like, remove the towers only and you're fine. Or keep the towers and just don't make them weird to get, because you get to the tower, there's normally enemies at the bottom that just kind of filler because they don't really pose any threat. You beat up the enemies and you gotta like climb the tower, which may take like 30 seconds if not a minute for some point, because you gotta find the stupid button somewhere on it. Then you gotta press the button, and then the tower's gonna tell you about another part of about another objective you can go to instead of just having that thing on the map to begin with. I think where the third game should go from here is basically keep the combat system largely what it is, or just add more cool things on top of it. But I think this combat system is like really good and shouldn't be messed with that much. I think they struck an amazing balance with it. Just remove some of the time-wasty animations that add up throughout the open world stuff. Rein in a few of the more annoying minigames. I freaking fear snowboarding. Though at the same time, I'm welcoming it because I kind of want to play it so badly. Because it's teased in the Gold Saucer. I so want it. And yeah, I love Rebirth. I really do. It's one of the more frustrating games I've ever played in my life, but it's also one of the best. And with that, I think I'll call the video there for the day. Thank you all for tuning in. My pleasure for making the video. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like and subscribe. It really helps the channel out and helps support future content, and I greatly appreciate it. Stay safe, have a great day. Leave a comment down below with your thoughts, your opinions on Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and what do you want to see going into the third game, gameplay-wise. Let's try and keep spoilers to a minimum here, yeah? Let's wait until the next Rebirth review, which is going to be full spoilers. But like, gameplay-wise, what do you want to see in Part 3? I'd love to hear your thoughts and your opinions. Stay safe, have a great day, and I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye, everybody, until we meet again.